Good evening and welcome to another episode of Politics Today. This is Bert Kassab. Today I have a unique guest, someone that's been on our program before, someone you may remember from a few years back when she was on another campaign actually and doing other work in the district here. We have with us Judge Kimberly Small from the 48th District Court. Kim, welcome to the program.
Hello, Bert. Thank you. Really happy to be here, excited to be here, and good evening to everybody.
In case many of our audience aren't familiar, what is a district court judge? You know, many people who are watching this program prefer never to see you in person, I'm thinking, because you're at
least not in the courtroom.
Not in a courtroom, exactly.
Maybe,
that's what I meant.
Courtroom.
Not with your robe on and not in a courtroom. But so they may not know what does a district court do. Can you tell us first about that?
Yeah, absolutely. The district court is one, as you know, is one of the two trial courts in the state. So we do criminal and civil work. From start to finish on many types of cases. We do everything. People will ask, what's a typical day in your day, in your world? And the answer is that there really is no typical day. In our worlds, we never quite know what's coming in the door. We never quite know what we're going to have to process. But we can do everything from a driving while license suspended to a murder exam, all in the same day, literally going from one to the next to the next.
And the truth is, the district court is probably the one that most people, if they're going to go to court at all, probably the district court is the local community court, if you will, where there's something involving a landlord-tenant, a traffic ticket, drunk driving, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. As you mentioned, a murder case, they got to go through the district court to get to the circuit court in many cases. So it's the one that almost everyone, if they're going to go to court, they're likely to come to this court first.
Very true, and that's why we're often called the People's Court.
Yeah, that's a good expression, actually. Now, 18 years has it been?
Yeah, 18 years. I cannot believe that.
It seemed like yesterday when you first ran.
It does seem like yesterday.
And prior to that, you worked for a federal judge, I believe. Tell us a little bit about that.
Actually, prior to that, I was a staff attorney for a federal judge for a wonderful man, a man that was also a bird colonel in the Marine Corps, which many people don't know. He was terrific. He is now, may he rest in peace. So I worked for him for many, many years, and I also was an Oakland County prosecutor, which I loved. I loved being able to wear the white hat and go out and protect the community.
Well, you know, one of the main areas, I shouldn't say the main areas, one of the areas that you see almost everything exclusively in the district court is drunk driving.
You do see a lot of that, correct?
And unfortunately, or depending on how you look at it, that's a serious subject. And it's a subject that people watching this program, you know, you get, oh, I can handle my liquor, I can you know, have a few drinks and drive and not have a problem. But that, I want to spend some time educating our audience about the seriousness of that matter. Let's start out by talking about what does it take for someone to be under the influence, under the law today?
You know what, that's a hard question to answer. What I can tell you is that if people are reasonably consuming alcohol, one normal-sized drink, I'm not going to start putting quantities in, but there is nothing illegal about drinking and driving, and I always hesitate to say that because I know I'm known as being very tough on drunk driving, and I am, and I know we're going to get to that topic. But you can go out and have a couple normal drinks with dinner over a period of time and not be near the legal limit. So you can consume alcohol responsibly and operate a motor vehicle safely. That's why there is the, as you know, the blood alcohol levels at 0.08 or above to make you under the influence, drunk, of course, in more common speak. So there is nothing wrong with responsibly consuming alcohol and then driving.
Well, I'm glad you said that because you're right. It's about responsibility.
It is.
And you can go to dinner, you could have a drink. No one says don't drink at all when you go out if you're going to drive. But like you say, drink responsibly. Let's talk about the seriousness of the matter because let's face it, Judge Small, you have a reputation that if they're going to come in front of you, kind of got to help them. They're going to jail the first time. That's been your reputation. How do you respond to that?
I do have a reputation of being very tough on drunk drivers, and I am. My feeling is that it's all about protecting the public. I never anticipated or expected to be so defined by one issue in my career. I'm all about protecting my public, period, end. So when we talk about drunk drivers, when you think about the number of people that are killed in a given year, the carnage that's being left behind by people who are operating drunk, when you think about those numbers, you think about in over the last 10 years of statistics, the number is anywhere between 12 and 16,000 people every single year in this country. Wow. That are being killed at the hands of drunk drivers. And then when you're looking at injuries, you're talking about 250,000 people are injured, left with either broken bones, closed head injuries, paralyzation. And the question is why? And here's the answer, at least as I see it. It all comes down to the word convenience. Somebody thinks it's too inconvenient to reach into their pocket and pull out their cell phone and make a phone call, get another ride home. Again, if you want to drink, I have no problem with that. You want to get drunk, that's okay, that's between you and your body. But when it comes to actually putting the rest of us in danger, my belief is that you don't get to roll the dice on our lives. So yes, I am known as being tough. There's also something else that's very interesting to me. 2/3 of all injury, all the carnage that's being left behind by people who operate under the influence, 2/3 are by people that have never been caught before, by first offenders. So it seems to me that the way you get to stop the carnage is to simply stop people from driving drunk in the first place. Call a cab, that's all it takes. There's even an app for that now.
Yeah, you're right. We don't want to advertise a company.
No,
here,
we don't, and I didn't.
The fact is, and I can tell you this because I live in the district. First, I have 3 drivers in my home, children, that God forbid, if there's a drunk driver that would hurt one of my kids because he was irresponsible, it's devastating. We've heard the stories of a parent losing a child or a wife losing a husband and so forth, the tragedies to a drunk driver all the time. But the good news about living in my district, our district, is the fact that they know not to drink and drive in the 48th district beyond the legal limits. Right. Because you will get in trouble, you will go to jail most likely, and you know what, that deterrent gives me peace that in my district it's a safer place to drive than perhaps other areas in the state of Michigan.
Well, and you just brought up the word deterrent. As you know, as a lawyer, there are 4 parts to every sentence that we judges are required to look at. And I look at all 4 parts in every sentence that I do. And one of them is deterrence. The other ones, of course, are punishment and rehabilitation and recidivism. Do we think somebody's going to do it again? Mm-hmm. So deterrence is one, and frankly, I like the message out there. Don't put us in danger. It's really simple.
Well, as I said, as a resident in that district, I frankly have no issue with your punishment because it does protect my kids when they're on the road and other family members. Now, here's an area that can be very sensitive to people watching. You have a minor, you have someone under 21, and they get caught with alcohol. They're high school kids or college kids. They'll make these mistakes. You've also received the criticism that you've kind of ruined these children's lives because you jailed them and you punished them so hard now they can't graduate college and go get careers and so forth.
Okay,
how do you respond
I'm going to interject right now, and I am so excited that you brought this up. First of all, there was one article out there in one of the newspapers who will remain nameless, and in fact I think they've even gone out of business, that did an article on myself and also my colleagues and put out there very recklessly that we put minors in possession of alcohol in jail. It is just false. And in fact, it's not even a jailable offense. Oh, excuse me. Not only is it not jailable, but we wouldn't. We know that our kids are going to make mistakes. And what we want to do...
It's part of growing up.
Of course it is. There isn't a person alive that hasn't made a mistake. When we were kids, we made mistakes. But the important thing is that we learn from them.
Right.
And when I put somebody on probation for being a minor in possession, the first thing is that particular plea, when somebody stands in front of me and gives me a guilty plea, that plea is not even placed on the public record. It's not even a conviction. Again, giving our children or the person standing in front of me the opportunity to learn and to grow from the experience. So the testing that is done, and I know that's probably the biggest complaint that I get, is people will say, do I really need to test? And the testing is simply for one reason only, and that's to see if there is an issue, an alcohol issue, that needs to be addressed. If there is, we want the opportunity to be able to address it in a way that's meaningful, impactful, and empowering to the individual standing in front of me.
Judge Smoth, for purposes of our audience, when you talk about testing, we're talking about where you make them go in on either a random basis or a regular basis to make sure there's no alcohol in their system, to make sure they're not making that same mistake twice.
Exactly. And that's just it. It's all about helping them learn. And if there's not an alcohol problem, and it's pretty quick at the beginning of probation to figure out who has an alcohol problem and who doesn't. And if there isn't one, then the testing is greatly reduced. But if there is, it gives us the opportunity to be able to address it and to help the individual in front of me. And frankly, Bert, with every sentence I do, there's two things that are running through my brain. Number one, first and foremost, protecting the public. Number two, what can I do to reach into this person's life to put them on a more empowering path than the one that led them to the courtroom?
Well, that's a great approach, because I mean, I know from clients, frankly, that have been in your, whose children have been in your courtroom. One of them, was actually a physician who had a college daughter who made the mistake and drank underage, and you gave her what would be considered a tough punishment. Not where she's going to stay on her record, but he actually called to thank me after, because he was concerned about his daughter, being in trouble and all that. You transformed her life, because from that experience, she learned so much. She hasn't got anywhere near alcohol. Her grades have gotten better. She became more responsible. So sometimes that's what they need.
One of the greatest blessings that I have in my day as a judge is when I get a letter from somebody that says just that, thank you. You've changed my world. Because I've been on the bench 18 years, and I say that and I still can't believe it's been 18 years, but I've been on the bench for 18 years, I have literally gotten thousands of letters from people. In fact, one of the pieces of literature that I've put out through this campaign cycle has just a smattering of examples of some of the letters that I receive. And I love when people reach back and they say, thank you, you changed my life. Now, the truth of the matter is, I didn't change their life. I just led them to the right tools and the path for them to change their life.
Well, that leads me to another area that I'm really very proud of you for doing this, and as being a judge of my district. And it's really more important, actually, than what you do in the courtroom with your black robe on. Is that what you, in my opinion, it's actually has a higher impact than what you do in the courtroom, and that's the program that you do with the kids. I want to talk about that, because I know you do a lot of things in that area. So tell us about the one part that I think is a great thing, which is you take your court and essentially do it in their school.
I do.
Tell us about that.
I love it. It's actually called Critical Life Choices. I have two programs. One is called Critical Life Choices, and the other program is called Cool to Be Clean. And it is, I've been doing it now for 17 years, and I have had the privilege, honor, and just the greatest gift to be able to share it now with over 20,000 of our students. Wow. And I am so grateful to the schools that let me in each and every year. They thank me, and I'm always thanking them for being able to do this. And what it is it's two parts. The first part is actually the court. We literally just pick up the court and take it to the schools, and I do it with 8th graders.
Okay.
And the reason I do it with 8th graders is because by the time they get to high school, sometimes they're just a little too smart.
Yeah.
So I love to do it at 8th grade. And I go and literally, my whole organization is picked up and we go to the school. Typically do about 3 cases.
Real cases?
Oh, there's nothing staged about this.
Okay.
3 real cases, and then the part that I absolutely love is after the court session and I'm done doing the judge thing, I take off my robe and put back on my blazer and go out and do a program with the kids where I show them 4 videos of real life events that have changed people's worlds in ways that they never could imagine. Now I'm talking in the negative, where there's been a car crash, where somebody's dead, that type of thing, somebody who dies from alcohol consumption. There's a video on that. And it's all designed to help them think. And I share a little bit about my past with them. When I was in 7th grade, I really had a woman come to me, She looked at me and she said, Kim, I want to tell you what I see. I see a young lady that's very smart, very capable, making decisions for herself, that's going to lead her down a path that she doesn't even realize is going to be such a negative path. And it had nothing to do with me doing drugs or alcohol. It had to do with who I was hanging with at the time, who I was surrounding myself with.
Well, you were 12 years old, 11,
exactly.
12 years old, so
but
those
I
are the...
so appreciate what she did. She changed my life because she cared enough to come and talk to me and help me see what I wasn't seeing for myself.
See,
So,
that's the time to reach these young people.
without a doubt.
Not when they're in college and want to drink and act irresponsibly, potentially. If you can change the lives of a handful of students every time you do that are listening to you, that will not make a mistake when they get to college or later in high school, that's the time to make the difference. Not when they appear in front of you in a courtroom, and by then they've already had alcohol or in possession of alcohol, or maybe even drinking and driving and making some of these other mistakes that could be really costly to them in the long run.
And I think we have to keep reminding them at all stages. This is a great stage to do it because it really helps them think. It helps them think about their future. One of the things I will say to them is, and I'll go through my history, I'll say, who thinks I would be standing here as your chief judge if I had made a different decision in 7th grade? If I had chosen to stay on the path that I was on? And not a hand goes up, and including mine, because I wouldn't be standing there. So it's all about the people that reach into our worlds and guide us.
You're a great role model, having a father of 2 daughters. You're a great role model. My one daughter looks up to you tremendously and is in law school currently, and someday she may be in a position like yours and hopefully influenced by what you're able to coach her in
Well, I have no
her
doubt she
decision
can
to go
do
to law
whatever
school.
it is she chooses to do.
Thank you, Judge. I want to explain to our people what is the 48th District, because you hear district court and you hear numbers, but no one understands what 48, 46, 47.
Right, we're all numbers.
So yeah, it's all numbers, right? And they should have come up with a better
Right,
system so people can relate to it easier. So you're in the 48th District. You're up for re-election this
Correct.
year. Election is November 4th, coming up very soon.
It is.
We, of course, are going to get to our audience about getting out the vote and making sure they vote. But let's tell them, where is the 48th District? What does that cover?
The actual courthouse itself is in Bloomfield, but it covers 7 municipalities.
Okay.
It covers Bloomfield Township, Bloomfield Hills, West Bloomfield, Birmingham, Kego Harbor, Sylvan Lake, and Orchard Lake.
A good size area.
Yeah.
And probably one of the more influential districts in the state, if not in the country, actually. And then if I live in that district, and I'm hoping I'm going to get out to vote, because that's a constant message that I have to our audience, to get out and vote. It's our constitutional right.
It's our privilege.
And
People
one of the
fought hard.
races is for judge in your district. Now, let's clarify for our audience, because there's those that, I'm going to vote Republican, I'm going to vote Democrat.
Oh,
Tell us
I'm
about,
so glad you said
yeah,
that.
tell us about where the judges are in that category.
Judges are nonpartisan, which means if you vote a straight ticket, you are going to completely be skipping the judge portion of the ticket. Completely.
Not voting for anyone.
We won't even get a vote. So if you turn over the ballot, the nonpartisan part of the ballot is on the bottom.
Okay.
And that's where you'll see the judges. So if you're going to vote straight ticket, that's fine, but turn over and make sure you get to that nonpartisan part of the ballot, which is the judges.
And at this point, it doesn't matter if you think you're a Republican or if you're a Democrat, you're electing a nonpartisan judge who serves the entire district and the entire community. And of course, if you live in that district, as Judge Small said, you want to get to the portion where the judges are. There's going to be a U.S. Senate race on the ballot. We got a governor's race, all partisan, of course. We have Supreme Court justices that are up this time. There's, I think, some Oakland County races, those that live in Oakland County. And then after that, we got the 48th District for those that live in the 48th District. So how many candidates will be there? 2?
Just 2.
Okay, just you and an opponent.
Yes.
And at this point, of course, experience does matter. 18 years on the bench, you've seen it all, you've done it all. You may be a tough judge, but to me, that's an honor, not a disadvantage.
You know, if I can just say this, I think it's really important who you elect as a judge, for getting just about my race. Because if you want safe communities, you need to have judges that have an eye towards protecting the community and keeping the standards high in the community. You know, we've all seen beautiful areas when we were growing up that no longer are safe. And it's important that you put judges that take crime seriously so we can have areas that are safe for our children and our families.
Well, the truth is, beyond the police, which are the first in line of defense, the district court is right behind that.
We actually can wipe a police do. If the police are out there enforcing the laws, if it comes to the court and the judges don't take it seriously, then it completely undermines the efforts of the police officers.
Now, I'm sure you've had various organizations or parties or individuals endorse you. Can you share some of those with us?
Yes. I haven't sought a lot of endorsements because, as corny as this might sound, the endorsement that I really need and want are the endorsement of people. But I did seek the endorsements of the police chiefs and the police officers, and I have unanimously received their endorsements. I have a list of endorsers on my website, JudgeSmall2014.com, and you do need the year 2014. I've learned a lot about search engine optimization through this campaign. So there are many leaders that have also endorsed me, and the sheriff as well.
Well, just having the law enforcement unanimously endorse you says a lot about what they think about what you do.
Actually, I was very honored and touched.
And I like your slogan. Think big, but vote small.
Think big, vote small.
See, for those that are watching and live in the 48th district, that'll be an easy thing to remember. Yeah, think big and vote small.
Yeah, that think big, vote small was actually born 19 years ago when I first ran. And I almost didn't use it. Somebody else had come up with it, a lovely woman who I used to work with at the prosecutor's office, and I said, that sounds so political. And they all looked at me like, you're crazy for not using this. And hence it was born 19 years ago and dusted off now.
And it's still effective. So I want to repeat the areas again for the 48th district for our audience, so those that live in that district can make sure to get out and vote on November 4th.
Are you going to repeat it so
no,
I can test you, or are you asking me?
Because I may miss one, that's the thing.
It's Bloomfield, Bloomfield Hills, West Bloomfield, Kego Harbor, Sylvan Lake, Orchard Lake, and Birmingham.
All right. And I'll be one of the ones voting in that district. So those of you that live in the 7 municipalities that Judge Small just mentioned, make sure you get out to vote, first of all. And when you get to the section of choosing your local district judge, remember Judge Small. Think big, vote small. Judge Small, thank you for being on the program. We look forward to having you again sometime soon.
Thank you, and let's see if I've got this right. Shukran, Bert.
There you go, see?
Shukran to all of you this evening.
Until we see you again, this is Bert Kassab. Have a good evening.